Good boy. Sonia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, do you see that I asked you to do that and you said it was done, right? You've muted yourself.
Yeah, it's done. It's 1 hour before event and right now.
But it's not showing up on my page. Do you see that? Do you see that? Do you see it on my Facebook page?
Do you mean on the Spirit Centric or your profile?
My Facebook page. Sonia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm just checking what you see. I have it 1 hour left, and I'm doing the right now post.
Okay. Right. No problem. I'm not sure of why this is not letting me go live on Facebook. Live on Facebook. Let's see what's happening here. I'm showing my timeline. There we go. Okay. Oh my goodness. Hi, Tasha. Let me see if I can give you permission to talk here. If you unmute yourself, you should be able to, we should be able to hear you. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
Good. we're going to get started in just a moment. I want to see if I can find some photos to go along with my talk today. Apollo wants to say hi. Say hi, Apollo. Let's see how I'm going to find those photos. Unfortunately, I just post so many photos that it's really hard to actually find them when I want them. Oh, come on, they can't be that far back. Actually, maybe they're not going to be so far back. Let's see what I can come up with here. Oh, yes, I found some. All right, I'm going to keep this page open so I can go back and forth. Oh, sweet boy. All right, so let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Someone else is coming in. No, maybe not. I'm not sure. Tasha, I'm going to mute you right now, and then I'm going to go ahead and start the talk.
Okay.
All right. There we go. Solomia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Will you please watch the attendees and make sure that they're getting admitted easily? I'm going to go ahead and start the discussion now, okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay, let's see. Make sure I have, actually, and before I start the discussion, I'm going to make sure that all my extra apps are shut down so that my computer doesn't freeze up. And I'm going to make sure that all my devices are on mute. Okay. All right, so, all right, I want to thank you for joining me and welcome you to my series, Should You Be a Healer or a Spiritual Life Coach? So in this series, I'm looking at the life of a healer and the life of a life coach, a spiritual life coach. To me, I put them together because for me, I do both. And I find that a lot of people, when they say that they're healers, they're also coaching people, or they want to coach people. And sorry, my guy really wants attention right now. So we're going to give him 1 second of attention. Come on. You want it? You got it, bud. This is Apollo. And he's actually going to feature very prominently in our talk today because he has a very special story and we have a very special story together. So he's saying, hey, I'm going to show my face right now, and then I'm going to not show my face so much anymore. So say hello to Apollo. All right, off, little bud. Go to bed. Go to bed. Come on, go to bed. Good boy. He knows I have his favorite treat here, so I'm going to give that to him and let him go and play by himself. So this series, Should You Be a Healer or Life Coach, really wants to dive deep into what it means to be a healer and life coach. It's a career or a vocation that many people want to do, but a lot of people have fear around it. And I want to give you courage to explore it. And I want to show you that it's not very hard, that you do have the talent. If you have the desire, you probably have an initial, you have what it takes. You might need to nurture what it is you have, You might need to develop more, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it or you should not do it. So today, we are going to explore the wounded healer and what it means, how that archetype shows up for many of us in our lives, and how that can serve you as a healer and spiritual life coach. So I want to just start off by telling you a little bit of a story. Last year, I was invited to Costa Rica, and I was going to help facilitate a healing modality that you might know about, you might not know about. It's called the completion process. And I really love traveling. And I always wanted to be really so good at what I do that people invite me to come to their workshops, to their seminars, because of my expertise. So going to Costa Rica was a really important experience for me. While I was there, so it was great that I was there in Costa Rica, but while I was there, I had this kind of opening in my consciousness. Now, this happens for me when I travel very often. There's something about movement, flying, and crossing different zones and feeling different energies. Different things awaken inside of me, different aspects of myself, different aspects of my creativity. So while I was in Costa Rica, I had this really powerful opening in my heart and in my mind, and I felt like I wanted to travel to Greece. So I don't usually need a reason to travel to Greece because I always just go where spirit calls me. So there is never no reason. But I felt like something was going on inside me, right? And I wanted to explore it. So what I did was I went on to Airbnb. I don't know if you know that site, but it's a place where you can go and rent a house or an apartment anywhere in the world, and people have their houses and apartments for rent. So you go and you check out a place and you communicate with the host, and you ask them all your questions and they tell you whether the place is available or not. So anyway, I found this really terrific place, really wonderful, but it was in this area of Greece called Mount Pelion. Now, when I saw the place, I was kind of like really blown away. It's absolutely beautiful. And actually, I want to show you a picture of it. Let me see how I'm going to do this. Let's see. This is, actually, I thought that I had a picture of it. Okay, I don't have a picture of the actual cottage, but I do have a picture of what I saw, my view from the cottage. So I'm going to share my screen. And this is on Facebook. Here is the image this was the view from the cottage itself. Really beautiful mountains. This landscape down below is all wild flowers, wild herbs, lavender, brilliant colors. You don't see it from this particular angle, but this was the patio or the terrace where I stayed. And so obviously looking at this place, it's just absolutely magical. So I'm going to stop my screen share now. So when I saw the place, I fell in love and I contacted the owner. We had a dialogue. It worked out all very well. So I set myself up to go to Greece. Yeah. So I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know anything about Mount Pelion. But after I booked the apartment or the cottage, and then I booked my airfare, I decided that I would do some research on the place. And it turns out that Mount Pelion was home of the famous Greek centaur, Chiron. Now, if you don't know centaurs, that's okay. They are mythological creatures, but Greece is one of those places where the mythology is still alive, right? So Chiron was this centaur, and in the sky, in astrology, we also have a comet, which is named Chiron. So these things are going to be very important. So Chiron is responsible, the comet Chiron is responsible for the healing aspects of our astrological charts. Now, I had studied Chiron through astrology, so I was really excited that he's actually kind of reaching out to me and guiding me to Greece. So as an astrologer and as a spiritualist, I follow my instincts, I follow my intuition 100%. So when I get a feeling inside myself that says go to Greece, and then I do my research and it leads me to a place called Mount Pelion, and then I do the research on Mount Pelion, and I find that one of the things that I love to study actually originates there. I have to start, like, my intuition buttons and all the bells and whistles are going off in my head, and I'm feeling very like something magical is happening, right? So as I said, Chiron, the comet that's responsible for healing in our astrology charts, is named after this centaur, Chiron, right? So there's Chiron in the sky, and then there's Chiron, the Greek god, who is also a healer. So my Airbnb host was this really lovely woman, but she had this kind of odd energy. She was very edgy. She was very kind, but she was very edgy. She was very, very, very controlling. Turns out she was acting under the influence of Saturn. She's a child of Saturn. Now, if you don't know anything about Saturn, Saturn is the planet that rules our fear and our discipline and our need for control, right? So that's a little bit of Saturn in a nutshell. So this is particularly interesting because Chiron's birth father is Saturn or Kronos. Saturn is the name in the Roman pantheon, and it's the name that we use for that planet, Saturn. But in Greek mythology, it's Kronos. So Saturn and Kronos are the same thing. Now, Chiron, the centaur, his father is Saturn. And I'm trying to explain this story to give you all the details because it's all quite fascinating. Let me know, please don't hesitate to unmute yourself and let me know if it's too confusing, right? Or you want me to go over something else? But Chiron's birth circumstances are really interesting because Saturn was a Titan, and he knew that any children he had would try to kill him off. So he wanted to try to kill off any of his children. So Zeus was one of his children, and Zeus had escaped him. Zeus's mom sent him away. Like, she went and hid her pregnancy, and then she gave birth and then hid the child. So Saturn's going around looking for Zeus. In the meantime, he sees a water nymph named Philyra. Now, Philyra does not want anything to do with Saturn or Kronos, whatever you want to call him. She doesn't want to have anything to do with him. So she changes herself into a mare and runs off. So Saturn turns himself into a stallion and goes chasing her. So he outruns her, catches her, and then rapes her. So Greek mythology is violent. Like all mythology, all these gods and goddesses, these deities, these devas on earth, they act crazy. Or not, it's just not on earth, but wherever they are, they act crazy. So Saturn rapes Philyra, and Philyra becomes pregnant. So Saturn rapes Philyra and then goes off doing his thing. Philyra becomes pregnant, and when she gives birth to the baby is half human, half horse, which is, you know, she was a mare and Saturn was a stallion when they made it. So the baby is half human, half horse. Valera is not having it. She is like, no, not only was I raped, I also have this child which is not like me. So she gives it up, abandons it, and takes off. So Chiron, this baby is Chiron. So now Chiron is, we're starting to get into the first wounding of Chiron. So Chiron is half man, half horse. That's what a centaur is. Mount Pelion, where I'm called to, is all about centaurs. The people there, by the way, have horns. It is the most interesting thing. And the woman, the Airbnb host where I was, the Airbnb host also had little horns. You can see them. They're not big, gigantic horns, although I'm not sure that they don't come out like at the full moon. I'm not sure. But they have these little bumps on their heads. It is really, really, really fascinating. So anyway, my Airbnb host was really a nice woman. But there were some edgy issues that she had, right? So one of the things I want to share with you also about Mount Pelion and why me being called there is so important. Mount Pelion is called the land of healing, and it is a mountain that's known for its 4,000 varieties of herbal plants. So that's a lot, right? So when you walk through the hills of Mount Pelion, and like I showed you in the photos, all that is just beautiful herb that is healing, and it smells amazing and it looks amazing. It's an amazing, magical place. Also, coincidentally, that house, that cottage where I was staying was literally a stone's throw away from Chiron, the centaur's cottage. So you're probably wondering why I keep talking about about Chiron, and I'm telling you this story. Well, I'm going to get to that, but understand that Chiron, when he was born of rape and pain, and then he was abandoned as a baby, which we know is painful. You may not know it. I know that it's painful, and this is why this is going to be really important. So while I was in Mount Pelion, I headed out on an adventure just to follow an old set of train tracks. I was there. I booked myself in for 3 weeks. I didn't know why I was there. All I knew is that Chiron had called me there. So I set out on a walk, you know, following my instinct, and I'm going to go follow these train tracks. There's an old train and an old hotel. So I head off in that direction. And as I'm walking, I feel something tap me on my legs. So I look down, and this is what I see. All right, so I'm going to show you another photo. How do I do it? Oh, hold on just a second. Let me see if I can do this without messing up my system here. Right, this is what I see. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm really affected by this stuff. Here we go, Zoom, share screen, share. Hopefully you can see this. Am I sharing my screen? Are you all able to see what I'm saying? Solomia, can you give me a heads up?
Yes, yes.
What do you see? What do you see?
Cute boy, little.
I'm sorry, what?
A little cute boy.
Ah, yes. This little cute boy who knows we're talking about him and is now wanting attention again. Huh. So this is what I see, yeah? And what I ended up doing was, I see this dog. I go into the hotel and I ask basically, whose dog is this? Why is he here? Can we help him? And they basically are like, no, there are too many dogs in Greece. There are dogs everywhere. No, we're not doing anything about him. So I say, all right, let me think about this. And I decide that I'm going to go for my walk. And when I come back, if the dog is around, I'm going to give him some scraps. And, I'm not taking on a dog, right? That's my attitude. What am I going to do? I'm traveling. I'm a nomad. What am I going to do with a dog, right? So and so I go on my walk and I come back to the hotel and I have dinner at that hotel. And as I'm coming out, I'm going to walk back home. I've saved some food. And sure enough, that little dog comes running down the stairs to me and I give him my scraps. I go back to my host at the Airbnb and I ask her if I can bring the dog here until I can find a shelter for him, because it was cold. It was March when I was there, but it was still really cold because we were high in the mountains, right? We're in Mount Pelion. So my host was very much like against bringing the dog back. She didn't care that he was a puppy. She didn't care that I'd said I'd take on the responsibility. She's like, there are too many dogs here, and there were other people who abandoned pets before, and she was just not having it. Hey, bud, go to bed. Go to bed. Good boy. So I went to bed that night really angry and sad, and I was grieving that this little dog was out in the cold. But more than anything, I felt really powerless. Like I feel right now like my dog is acting crazy. He wants my attention so badly. He knows my energy's on him, and so he really wants to participate. But I felt really powerless, and I was so upset that night that I went into a panic attack. It was a really rough night. And I realized in that moment that in order to really overcome this situation, I would have to take matters into my own hands. So I decided that regardless of whether the host wanted the dog on the property, I was going to rescue the dog. And I put my mind to it, and I said there must be a shelter that I could find for the dog. Hey, sweet dog, go to bed. Go to bed, bud. Come on, go to bed. And sure enough, I put my mind to it. I found a shelter. I started a dialogue. I said that I would sponsor the dog, meaning, I figured I'd spend $500 to feed and shelter that dog while they found a home for it over the course of 5 or 6 months. That's what they said it might be. We talked the numbers. I was ready to invest the money. So I told this to my host the next morning, and she was pretty surprised. She's like, you would do that for a dog? And I'm like, yeah, I feel compelled to do it. I follow my instincts. I'm going to do it. So she's like, all right, well, go ahead and bring the dog back down to the house, and he can stay here until you get him to the shelter, until they can come pick him up. So that was great. The thing is, we got the dog back to the shelter, and you saw how sweet he is, right? I'm going to share his picture again because he's super sweet. And his personality is like really, really kind. Actually, I'm going to just, instead of showing me, I'm going to show him because he's so much cuter than I am. So my landlord, the host, is loving this dog so much that she starts saying, I think I'm going to keep the dog. I'm going to keep the dog, right? So something inside of me gets flared up. And I'm like, oh, no, you're not. You're not keeping the dog. This is what I'm saying in my mind. You're not keeping the dog because I'm keeping the dog. I'm keeping the dog. And I don't know what it was inside me that made me all of a sudden really possessive and really protective over this dog. But in that moment, there was nobody on this planet that would take better care of this dog than me. Nobody could take better care of this dog than me. And I was going to fight anybody that would come between me and this dog. I don't know where that came from, but I felt it. It was like warrior waking up inside me. And so immediately I got on the line. I wrote my landlord back in Croatia. I was living in Croatia at the time. And I wrote her and I said, hey, there's a dog here. Can I keep him? And she said, yeah. She wrote me immediately. She's like, Crystalline, I trust you. Bring the dog back if you feel compelled to do it. It's no problem. Sure enough, that's what I did. And that is how that's how this little guy became us. Ha 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 ha. Yes, me and Apollo. So the interesting thing, so I'll stop the screen share now. Yes, you and I, Apollo and Artemis. I need to change my name to Artemis, and here's why. So this story is a little bit long, and I'm sorry I'm going on so long with this story, but it's really important if you want to be a healer and a life coach because, and I see there's a question. Nope, no question. Did I see a question? No, no question. Sorry, guys. This story is important because I named Apollo. Everybody thought I should name him Chiron. And I really thought about it, but Chiron is the wounded healer. I'm going to tell you more about Chiron in a little bit, but I'm not telling you about, I didn't want to name him Chiron because I did not want my dog to be going through the same thing that I went through. I identified very strongly with Chiron, and you'll learn why very shortly, like I said, but Chiron is the wounded healer. He's never able to heal from his wounds, and he suffered greatly. I didn't want my dog named after Chiron. So Apollo would lie in the sun, and I know I must have another photo of this. Sorry, let me just go back and see if I can show you why I named him. Let's see if I can get this right. This image is the one that made me name him. Oh, this is the one that made me name him Apollo. This right here. Hold on one second, guys. Sorry I'm not more graceful with this technology, but this is why I named him Apollo. Because that right there, in the sun with those big old paws and him asleep, I felt him receiving the light, the healing energy of the sun as he would lie on the concrete or in the grass. I just knew that he was receiving something. And here he is again with that brilliant light. And I'm like, this dog is Apollo. I fell in love and I kept him. So here's the thing that's really interesting and why, if you are listening to this, it's going to be really important that you honor your heart and your feeling nature. And if you're drawn to this kind of work, I want you to start opening yourself up to all the miraculous things that are happening around you. So I didn't really know a lot about Apollo. I knew that he was only the sun god. And I thought, okay, this is perfect. I'm going to name him after the sun god. Well, it turns out that Apollo, the sun god, is the guy who rescued Chiron when he was abandoned. And he's the one that made Chiron this brilliant healer. So Chiron is the wounded healer, but he wasn't always wounded. Before he was wounded, he was well taught. He was an educator himself. He learned about all of nature. He learned about the healing herbs and medicine. He learned about astrology. He knew, he was just really, really wise, really, really gentle, really peaceful. He knew poetry, he knew music, and he was really, really loved by the centaurs and the gods alike. And he became a great teacher of some of the greatest gods, like Pericles, Hercules. I can't think of any other names, but there are lists and lists of the great gods that he taught, and they all loved and respected him. So here's the story of the wounding of Chiron. Chiron being beloved. He was very gallant and chivalrous. And like I said, one of his students and his dear friends was the god Hercules, or if I'm not mistaken, actually, Hercules was a Titan. If I'm not mistaken, he was a Titan. Anyway, he and Chiron were really good friends, good, deep relationship, student and teacher, good friends, bound at the heart. Hercules was a badass without a doubt, but he was also a little bit of a troublemaker, and I think he was out hunting centaurs. Centaurs, again, are half men, half beasts, right? So Hercules is out hunting centaurs, and he's got arrows dipped in the blood of a hydra. A hydra is a 7-headed snake, and they're really dangerous. So he's killed a hydra, he's dipped his arrows in the blood of the hydra, and he's going out hunting centaurs. So he's plucking off, there's some kind of a thing, and he's plucking off these centaurs, and one of his arrows hits his beloved centaur, Chiron. Now, Chiron is, centaurs are not immortal, but Chiron is, because he's not your typical centaur. He's half man, half horse, but he was born of Saturn or Kronos and Phalyra, the water nymph. So he's not like the other centaurs, he's immortal. So this arrow goes into Chiron, and Hercules is devastated, but Chiron doesn't die. Instead, he's wounded with a wound that never heals. It causes him tremendous pain, and he's forced to live in tremendous pain, and he's maimed. You know, he's a horse, and he's got a maimed leg. We know that horses, when they become maimed, they normally put the horse down, but Chiron has to go on living like this, and he suffers tremendously. So basically, he goes to Zeus, who is his half-brother. Zeus is born of Kronos or Saturn, and he goes to Zeus, and he's like, look, what can you do? Can you turn me into a mortal? So what Zeus does is, Prometheus is another god, and he's done something bad. And Prometheus is forced to have his liver eaten out by an eagle every single day, and he's forced to, oh no, Apollo, no. Apollo has jumped up onto my kitchen table and confiscated my garlic. Garlic is not good for dogs, by the way. Garlics and onions are actually dangerous. They're toxic to dogs. And he's grabbed it and taken it to his bed, ruining my garlic. I'm not eating the garlic that the dog is eating, but also endangering himself. No, Apollo, bad boy. Grr. Okay, sorry. So Prometheus has done something. Can't remember what Prometheus has done. I should know what Prometheus has done, but I don't. So anyway, he's doomed to have his, also being immortal, he's doomed to have his liver eaten out by an eagle every day. That's supposed to kill him and then revamp him, go to bed. And so what Zeus arranges is for Chiron to take Zeus's place and to actually die, and then Zeus arranges for Chiron to take Prometheus's place, have his liver eaten, and then he would actually perish. And in that way, Chiron would be set free, but Prometheus's debt for what he had done would also be paid, because there is an immortal who's giving up his life for another immortal. All right, so I want to pause right here and ask if any of our participants have any questions. Tasha or Angelia, do y'all have any questions about anything I've said, or do you want to give any of your input or your own knowledge about about the mythology?
No, I'm just enjoying the story, and it kind of coincides with things I'm going through myself. So,
All right, excellent. Thanks, Angelia. So I want to go on then and finish telling you my story, right? But I also want to talk to you. The rest of my story is all about the wounded healer. But let's see. Actually, before I do that, I want to just make sure I get something else that's really kind of magical. I want to share that with you. So I have this urge to name my dog Apollo. What I didn't realize is that my patron goddess is Artemis. Now, I don't know if you know about Artemis, but she is a young energy, very young and beautiful, but she loves animals and she loves nature, and she has the bow and arrow, which she uses to focus her energy. So a lot of people think that Artemis is a great hunter, but she doesn't actually like to kill animals. She loves nature. She spends all her time in nature. She's a bit of a tomboy. But what she does with her bow and arrow is she uses it to focus and pinpoint ideas. So she shoots her arrows and it goes straight to the target. So she's a master of manifestation because she helps us stay focused on our target. So she's been a patron of mine. She's told me this actually only last year, but she's been a patron of mine for years and I just never knew it. I only tuned into her energy last year. And she came to me when I was going to Greece and she's like, hey, I'm on this trip with you to Greece. Well, it turns out Artemis is the twin sister to the god Apollo. I had no idea. So here I am on Mount Pelion. Turns out that Artemis and Apollo both together raised Chiron, although it was mainly Apollo, but Artemis was there nurturing Chiron in his development as he was growing up, being reared in the arts and healing. And I'm just fascinated with how these things all come together to help, and guide us and guide me. I know I have the guidance. I'm very aware of it because I'm constantly opening my mind to the reasons why. You all are also being guided. You may not ask why, but the whys are there for you if you'll search. Just my dear friend Angelia is here on the call with us, and she knows because she was guided to Egypt and came back with a strong connection to the goddess Hathor, which is all about the open heart. And when she was going to Egypt, I could feel that something was there that was calling her. I didn't know what it was, but I could feel it. Sure enough, she came back with a strong, strong connection to Hathor, and it makes perfectly good sense. I can see where Hathor might even be her patron goddess. And Angelia, if you want to chime in and talk about that, if there's anything that's coming up that you feel inspired to share about your journey with Hathor, feel free to unmute yourself and to chime in. And if you don't worry about it, eh? But if you feel like it, feel free to.
Okay, so I guess I'll just say it real quick, since you mentioned it. But yeah, I don't know if you remember right before then, I was having a lot of issues that now that I look back have to do with the heart chakra not receiving.
Uh-huh.
And when I went there, right before I got in contact with a man whom I had a relationship, but I was afraid to restart that relationship because of past issues and things like that.
Yeah.
And when I went there, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it, the energy, but it was like a cleansing. and everything just aligned in a way that it made perfect sense, that I had a lot of downloads and messages and things like that. And I would say like one of the more deep healing parts of the trips was the Hathor temple for me. And like it was just, everything just aligned. And ever since then, ever since I've been keeping up with my practice of that, like actually my relationship with him has gotten deeper and even more profound, because he does want me to receive a lot more within the relationship, because I was always the person to give instead of receive.
Yes, yes. You know, Angelia, this is it's so apropos. That Hathor energy, there's something that that we were kind of talking about, you know, and it has to do with having an ample bosom. And there's something about that Hathor energy, like she has to have an ample bosom in order to carry her ample heart. You know, I know that sounds maybe a little bit weird. I don't mean for it to be, but it's the way it kind of works. In order to have like, and it's not to say that slim bosomed women don't have large hearts. It's not to say that at all. But we were having a discussion about an ample bosom before you went to Europe. I mean, before you went to Egypt, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you go there, and I kept thinking in my mind, I'm like, Angelia, that's your big heart, honey. That's just your big heart. You gotta, that's just your big heart. And sure enough, you go there. Actually, hold on. Huh. Mm-hmm. If I'm not mistaken, I do believe that I want to see it. I'm sorry, you guys, I'm going to take just a quick pause and see if there's a Hathor card. Oh, it doesn't, well, it doesn't really show. This is not the Hathor card that I was thinking of, but I want to show you this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? But look at, can you see her breasts? Like there's an association with Hathor, the open heart, and this ample bosom, and giving and being super nurturing of the environment. Does that resonate at all with you?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Had you seen this card before?
I have the deck, yeah.
Oh, you have the deck. Yes, of course. Oh, yes, of course. Receptivity. Allow yourself to receive. This will increase your intuition, energy, and your ability to give to others. Amazing, right? Amazing. Thank you, Angelia, for sharing and talking about that, because I think it's really important. It just helps us see how the universe is, how the pieces are already there for us, and it's up to us to be receptive to receiving the guidance that leads us from place to place. Like for me to go on Airbnb and to say, I'm going to that house. The way I ended up in Mount Pelion was not because I studied the centaurs and wanted to go to Mount Pelion. No, I followed my instinct. It said, go on Airbnb. I saw the house. I said yes to the house. And then I'm like, okay, it's in Mount Pelion. I guess I'm going to Mount Pelion. I'm being guided to Mount Pelion. And that's how I ended up with my little heart chakra, my connection, my Apollo to my Artemis. The Artemis in me was longing for her companion, her beloved twin, her twin flame, Apollo. That's me. That's it. So this is important as spiritual life coaches and healers, that you are able to be receptive to the different feelings inside yourself and all the clues that the universe is giving to you that say you're on the right track, you're doing the right thing, you're in the right place. This is where you belong, you know? So you'll have to do this for yourself, but you'll also have to be aware of it in your clients and the people that you're going to serve. So using yourself as the canvas and as the experiment, this is a really important thing. And Chiron was very lucky that he was born, okay? I'm gonna say he was lucky he was born. We all are lucky and blessed to have life. But it was also lucky that Apollo and Artemis took him under their wings, and they loved him very much. And as I said before, Chiron was a prolific healer, and he was very well loved by the gods and the centaurs alike. Everyone loved and respected Chiron. So when he went out into the world, teaching and healing, he was able to teach and heal from his first wound. Now, there was a breakdown when he had his second wound, because it was a really devastating wound. That Hydra blood was devastating, and the poison arrow was delivered by his dear friend. We all know what it feels like to have someone that we know and trust and love to do something that harms us, that wounds us. It wounds us to our core. And that is what the Chiron archetype is about. It's about having a wound from which you cannot heal. So what does that have to do with you and me and the what we're doing as healers? Maybe. So I've prepared a little quiz that I want you to take, and we're going to ask, are you a wounded healer? Are you the child of Chiron? And these are your questions. And I'm going to say that I'll give you the key after. I haven't really developed the key to this little quiz, but I want you to consider it. So how do you know if you are a child of Chiron or a wounded healer? Were you born of pain or rape? Or were you an unwanted child? So that's a really heavy question, I know, but it is actually necessary, because some of us were actually born of pain and rape, and that has an influence on what we're experiencing here on Earth. Another question I want to ask is, have you experienced abandonment by one or both of your parents? That's another important question. Many of us have experienced being abandoned by our parents. I personally was abandoned by my father. My natural father wanted nothing to do with me, wanted nothing to do with pregnancy, he wanted abortion. My mom did not abandon me, but I still feel the pain of the abandonment from the father. Have you been considered not conventionally pretty? So keep in mind that Chiron's father is a Titan, could be considered quite beautiful, and his mom is a water nymph, quite beautiful. But this kind of half man, half beast in the eyes of the gods, it's kind of a profane thing. So Chiron is not considered beautiful by the standards of the gods. So if you've had to deal with issues of beauty, feeling like you're attractive enough, like you do, or maybe even that you don't fit in with your circumstances, you might be a child of Chiron. There are conflicts. I'm sorry, I need to ask these as questions, like we're on Jeopardy. Do you have conflicts with your tribe? So Chiron is not like the other gods in his wholeness. He's not in that beautiful physical form. He's also not quite a part of the centaurs, because the centaurs were born of rain and sun, and they are earth creatures. They're born, they're mortal creatures. They can die. They come through, they come from one another, you know, they're rain and sun, and then they procreate to be created, you know, to procreate their tribe. They mate with one another. Chiron was born in violence, but he was also born of a god, you know, of a titan and this water nymph. And they were not in their normal form. So, you know, he's coming from a different part. So he's not with the centaurs. He was not raised with the centaurs, but he's immortal because he got that from Zeus, but he's not like the other gods, but he was raised by the gods. So perhaps you don't fit in with your tribe. For example, I'm African American, but I didn't grow up with African Americans. I grew up in a family with 5 white step brothers and sisters and a stepfather who was white. And I grew up in Palos Verdes. There were all, out of the 2,000 kids in my high school, there were 4 black kids. So I didn't grow up with African American people. Not in that way. I would go to my friends that were in my neighborhood where my grandmother lived, but it wasn't like I was there all the time. I grew up in Palos Verdes, you know? So, by the way, I definitely see myself as a child of Chiron. I'm definitely carrying the wounded healer archetype. I wear that very well. Also, a thing you can ask yourself to know if you're a child of Chiron and the wounded healer archetype is if you have a natural affinity for healing, astrology, for making prophecy, working with herbs, teaching, or anything that has to do with the occult. If you're on this call, you might have that. Another thing you can ask yourself is if you have a peaceful nature, if you feel at harmony with the land, and also with who you are, sorry, what I'm trying to say are the 3 different forms: with the earth form, with the human form, but also with heaven. Do you feel at peace being in your skin? Yeah? If you feel at peace being in your skin, then you might be a child of Chiron and even the wounded healer archetype. All right, so I want to check in and see how Angelia and Tasha are doing. Do you all, can you all relate to the wounded healer archetype?
Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah, Angelia, tell me a little bit about it. Where do you find that you can relate to Chiron, if you want to share?
Well, just the part of feeling ostracized and not belonging and not feeling wanted, but at the same time have a deep urge for helping to heal others as well.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Very good. Thank you. And Tasha, I haven't heard much from you. I'm not sure if you might be doing things, but if you're there, you want to check in with us?
I'm here.
Excellent. Can you relate at all to the wounded healer?
Yes, my knowledge of wanting to learn about astrology and herbs and healing, like Reiki, and at peace and a healer.
Yes, fantastic. Great, thank you very much. Let's see, I wanted to just touch on that for one last instant. What we experience in our lives as painful becomes our most powerful shield, or I don't want to say shield, that's not the right word, our most powerful tool in healing ourselves, but also healing other people. So and this is the most important thing about the wounded healer. Everything that you experience, every pain that you go through, is potentially helping you open yourselves to compassion, to a deeper compassion for other people. So, I feel like it's important that we all learn how to start telling our stories, how to tell the stories of our wounding. Now, for Angelia or Tasha, I'm not sure, but let me ask you, do you all want to be healed? Do you want to be a healer or a life coach? Actually, I'm not going to ask. That's a stupid question because you both do. You both talked about wanting to share and wanting to teach. Boom, we know that. Here's the question I have for you. Do you wonder about how to share your story? Do you ever think about that?
Yes, you know I struggle with that, so.
Mm-hmm. Tell me how. What are some of the things that you wonder or worry about in telling your story?
Well, I guess it stems from being judged and ostracized so long that I guess it makes me hesitant and apprehensive to share my story for fear of being judged and ridiculed even more.
Uh-huh. Very good. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Tasha, tell me about yours.
The same thing, being judged.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Does not being able to tell your story or fear of telling your story, do you think that holds you back as a healer or spiritual life coach?
Could you repeat that?
Do you think that your fear of being judged or ostracized holds you back from pursuing your career more, like
No.
energetically?
No.
It doesn't hold you back?
No.
Uh-huh. So you tell your story even though you know it's going to be judged.
As far as being a healer, no, but being a life coach, maybe.
Tell me more.
Being judged because of like the background. Everybody's don't have the same backgrounds as to per se as in spirituality.
Mm-hmm. And so what's the problem? You think people are going to judge you for your spirituality, or are they going to judge you for the things that the lessons you've learned, or both?
Both.
Okay. All right. So you have a fear, but you say you have the fear, but you don't let it hold you back, or you do let it hold you back? I'm sorry, I'm not totally understanding.
I don't have, as far as pursuing it, as far as learning, no. As far as being a life coach, maybe.
Uh-huh. So learning about healing yourself, you don't have
Yeah.
a problem with, but applying it to other people, being a healer
Right.
to other people, you do. Yes. So it does hold you back in your career. Yes?
In that part, in that sense, yeah.
Yes. Okay. 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 Thank you for sharing that. What about for you, Angelia?
Yes, because I feel like just the example in itself of Egypt, I saw myself holding back, and it was a spiritual retreat where there was a lot of women sharing and supporting one another, and it held me back a little. And the minute I did open up and share things, it was actually quite the opposite. People were receptive and wondering why I hold back and why I don't share, because my story does help inspire others.
Yes.
But like, I don't know, because of that fear of judgment, I always hold back in the sense of being a spiritual coach and a healer, because I don't know. It's just that conditioning where, like, growing up with a strict childhood of not telling what goes on in the house because no one else needs to know, and things of that nature.
Yeah. Yes, sure. It's almost like you're taught that you have to keep these things secret and private, and they're not for anybody else except the few, or not even for that, because sometimes they don't even have the capacity for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the family doesn't rarely wants to hear about your perspective on them and your wounding around them. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you very much. So this is part of the issue with the wounded with the wounded healer. Part of our job is to learn how to share our stories and to share our pain without burdening the space of healing. So, for example, if someone comes to me for healing, part of my job is to listen and receive, and to impart whatever wisdom I have. But also sometimes I need to bring my own perspective in. I need to bring my own story in. There's the practical nature of how do I tell my story without overtelling it and without making it a burden for my client, but also being able to use my story as an example. There's that. But also my own internal process. How do I take what, for example, Susan is saying about her wounding, receive it, feel the empathy inside myself, and then to deliver that knowledge to her in a clear and concise way, where it makes sense to her, or to not cloud with my own egoic judgment. Does that make sense? Please let me know if I'm being unclear.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Angelia, like, if you and I are sitting down talking, I need to hear you. I need to receive you. If I don't have wounding, if you're telling me something that I cannot relate to, let's say that you tell me that that your father abandoned you before you were born. And I don't have that experience. I have a nurturing father. Both of my parents are very nurturing. I have the capacity, out of just compassion and learning and listening, to be able to feel your sadness and to give you healing based on just being a compassionate person who's proficient, who has studied healing and can give you healing. Yeah? Can provide a healing space for you to give you what you need. That's one type of healing. The wounded healer, however, is going to find the wound of you were abandoned by your father. She's going to feel that wound and deliver healing from the place of her own wounding, from the healing of her own wounding. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes. Good, because that's a little bit complicated for me to explain. Yeah?
No, you explained it perfectly.
Yeah? Tasha, does that make sense to you? Is it also coming through clearly to you, or do you have any questions about it?
It makes perfect sense. No, I don't have any questions about it.
Okay, great. So the idea that I'm on here is that as a wounded healer, part of your wound is the healing salve. So the healing salve of the wounded healer is your ability to feel, that's your compassion. Your ability to validate, that's giving part of the healing process, right? Validating another person gives them healing. Like when you've been upset with someone or something, when you tell your friend, this person said that to me, and blah, blah, blah. When your friend says to you, oh yeah, I know what that feels like, doesn't that help you feel better? So for me, in my kind of understanding of the wounded healer, part of what the wounded healer brings is this kind of ointment, which is like empathy. Empathy because you can relate, you've been wounded. It's this kind of validation where you're validating the person, and it's the ability to deliver the right words, the compassion, and then of course there are the healing solutions. And in some cases it might be hands-on healing like Reiki. It could also be looking at where the stars and the planets are and delivering the right combination of solutions astrologically. It could be applying the right ointments, making a recommendation of the right teas, doing chakra healing that helps you tune into what chakra needs to be healed, and then giving the person some remedies based on the chakras. It could be literal witches' potions, certain incense, healing oils, balms, things of that nature. All those things are are things that we need in our toolbox to help us help other people. But the wounded healer has this special thing, and that is the wounding. That's when you take the wounding and you make it into something special, something powerful by turning the wound into something that's of service for another person. All right? And that is all I have to say on the subject. So I want to open this up definitely to you all to give any input or to ask any questions you have about the wounded healer, anything I've said, or the coaching business in general. Please just let me know.
No, that was actually very insightful. So I appreciate it, Crystal.
Yeah, thank you, Angelia. I have a couple of questions that have come in from Facebook, and I'm going to answer those. I have Valentina, and she says her Chiron is in Gemini, and she had a speech impediment at a young age, and she also struggled to express herself. That is so perfect, Valentina. So Chiron in your astrology charts. Now, if you've never had your astrology chart done, you can order them from me. So, Lamia, can you please put a link to the astrology chart on Facebook, just in case someone wants to find out where their Chiron is? Chiron in your astrology chart tells you where your biggest healing journey is. Now, every year, the planets move around the different through the different constellations. So you have your overall Chiron story, but every year Chiron's in a new position, and you would want to maybe, you can look into, I can run a report for you if you want. You can find out where Chiron is for you each year. So for example, when I was born, if I'm not mistaken, oh, actually, yes, because this is Chiron return for me. So Chiron was in Taurus when I was born, and now I'm at the age of 48. I'm approaching my Chiron return. Chiron is back in Taurus again this year. So that's really important for me. So anyway, so when you're born, wherever Chiron is, it's giving you, it's showing you what the overall scope of your life's journey is with healing, right? So Chiron for me is always going to be about healing my relationship in Taurus, which is about self-worth. This is like the wound that won't heal. This is the wound I'm going to have to deal with all my life. It's not that it won't get any better, but it's that it's something that I'm going to be constantly dealing with all my life, yeah? And that's where Chiron is in your birth chart. So for me, it's about self-worth, how I show up in the world, what I value, blah, 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 doing a lot of healing around that. With Valentina, her Chiron is in Gemini, which is technically like the third house issues. So it's about how you communicate. It's about how you put yourself out in the world, how you express yourself. It's about words. She said she had a speech impediment. And it's also about like how you write, your speech, how you write, even how you dress yourself can show up with Gemini. So that's really wonderful insight, Valentina. Thank you so much for bringing that, introducing that into the dialogue. Also, if you have any other follow-up to that, please, please write your responses in Facebook, and then Sola Mia will transfer it here for me, okay? And then we'll come back to that. Now, also on Facebook, I have from Rancella, she says, oh, she said, there was violence, domestic violence with my parents. When I would visit my uncle and aunt, there was domestic violence there too. I was introduced to sex at the age of 4. My sister never did like me growing up, and my sister and brother would tell me I was ugly and bully me. I never saw the real me in the mirror. I became clairvoyant at age 5. Wow, that is so powerful and so, Rancella, classically, so classically, I'm sorry, it's getting dark. It's getting dark over here in Italy. I got to turn on some light. That is so classically wounded healer stuff. That is not Chiron's exact story. Obviously, he had a very happy upbringing once he became rescued, you know, by Apollo and Artemis when they raised him. However, though, this idea of the wounded healer is super powerful when you're raised in places of violence and incest. You know, the opportunity, the wound is obvious, right? The wound is obvious, but the opportunity to be the healer, either for yourself or on behalf of other people, is really, really profound. The opportunity that comes by working with other people. I work as a healer, and I've made it my life purpose to share every aspect of my healing journey in some form. You know, whether it's through my blog or through, you know, posts, whatever, I'm constantly willing to share what I've gone through, the pain and the process because I deeply study my own healing journey. I deeply study my clients. We're always scratching below the surface, going deeper, going deeper, going deeper. And that's for our own, because it's for our own benefit, because healing on the surface is not really healing. That's simply applying Band-Aids. That's just giving, topical solutions. Healing happens at the core. Healing is when you change a consciousness, when you change an environment, and you don't go back from healing. You know that something is healed when you're not going back. You're constantly evolving to the next level. Yeah, we can feel better. That's great to do. Applying a balm to help something feel better, there's nothing wrong with that. You need that in the moment. But healing is change. Yeah? All right, let me go through and see what other input we have. And of course, Angelia and Tasha, if you have anything you want to interject, please feel free to, okay? All right, and then I have from Star and Rancella, I want to thank you so much. Oh, by the way, you shared with me that you're Aquarius, and just to let you know, Aquarians are known as one of the top 3 healers in the zodiac. Like, that is kind of like our thing. So if you're an Aquarius, you might want to consider, taking healing to the level of career or vocation. I'm just saying there's a natural tendency to be good at it. All right? That's for all my Aquarian peeps out there. Star Patterson Green says, now that I've identified that I want to be a healer, I feel like I've been called to be one. What do I do now? Excellent question. Thank you for helping me get on with it. Thank you. Thank you, Star. I appreciate it. Actually, I'd like for you to, and maybe Solomia, you can post this for Star. You can send it to her maybe even in a message. I just put together a 12-step mini manual to help you start or launch your own healing and life coach business. It's called 12 Steps to Launch Your Healing and Spiritual Life Coaching Business. I'm not very good at making short, snazzy names. I like long, tedious names that tell you exactly what you're getting so there are no surprises. So that's one thing you can do. Solomia will pop that in the Facebook description so you can download that. But the thing that is most important, one of the things I should offer everyone who's listening, I love talking to people about this stuff. Obviously, I've been talking for an hour and a half almost about it, but I love talking about this stuff. So I invite you to book yourself in for a complimentary discovery session. It's a free session. You and I sit down and we talk. I give you my tips. You tell me what it is you want to do as a healer. I give you my tips on how to do it. I've been working in the healing industry for over 20 years. I started off as a massage therapist. I've done tarot cards since 1992. I then became a massage therapist, and I had my own day spa. I've been working as a spiritual life coach for I'm coming into maybe my 8th year or something like that. So I have a lot of experience working with people in the occult, working with the energy, doing astrology and tarot, and working with healing. I've just been doing it a long time. I've been doing shiatsu, which also taught me about Chinese medicine and working with the energetic system, So I feel really, really confident talking to people, even if you're not in my mode of healing, even if you're not into spiritual life coaching or tarot, I feel very confident talking about other things, and I can give you at least my perspective on things, yeah? So, Star, the thing that I want to do is invite you, and like I said, anyone who's listening, book in a spiritual life coach discovery session with me. Solomia will post the link in the Facebook page. Also, Solomia, you can post that here for Angelia and Tasha, although Angelia doesn't need it, but Tasha might need it. Now, that's one thing you can do. Another thing, I want to go back to Star's question because I want to make sure I'm answering the question. She says, now that she's identified that she wants to be a healer, what do? Next thing would be to start getting yourself certified in some kind of a healing modality, yeah? I like to recommend Reiki because Reiki is a beautiful healing modality that lets you learn about healing, and it allows you to actually facilitate change that you can feel immediately. It's not like you have to do all this long study. Reiki is about feeling what you feel immediately, feeling what's there and channeling it immediately. This is really important, you guys. And I'm going to be certifying people in Reiki in the next few weeks. We will post that. You all should sign up for my newsletter, by the way, to find out. Actually, maybe Solomia, if you can also post a link to sign up for the Should You Be a Healer or Life Coach group, not group, the email newsletter, because that, I'm running the Reiki sessions through that program. So anyway, I'm offering Reiki. I'll be certifying people in that in the next few weeks. So, if you're interested in learning that modality, it'll be great. I'm going to pour myself some water. Excuse me here. All right. With all that talking, I'm getting a dry mouth. One of the other things also I want to say that if you want to be a healer, you have to start inundating yourself with healing stuff. Like, you get up in the morning and you can either turn on the news or you can turn on YouTube and listen to a healing video. You can listen to Abraham Hicks, you can listen to Teal Swan, you can listen to Byron Katie, you can listen to anybody, and just start getting, listening to people and how they heal and learning the healing lingo and learning, what healers like myself, what we have to say and how we heal people, because YouTube is full of people that are sharing their healing experience and sharing their healing teaching, yeah? Let's see. I hope that's helpful, Star. Give me any feedback. Solomia will let me know. Now, Tasha says, I'm an Aries with a Virgo rising and moon. Chiron Taurus in that. Oh, Tasha, that is really neat because I'm Chiron Taurus in the second house. And the second and the eighth house are right across from one another. So that's really cool. You and I are going to be going through the same kind of things over the course of our lifetimes. Slightly different because yours is eighth house. You have more to deal with around this is really important for you right now. I hope, Tasha, please unmute yourself and let me know. I hope you read my full moon report. Did you read that report?
I hadn't seen it yet.
Solomia, can you please send Tasha? Are you in the Badass Butterfly program?
No.
All right, Solomia, send Tasha a link to Badass Butterfly training at the beloved caterpillar level. And Tasha, this is a free membership. It's a free training that I do. And I send out a moon report every month. And this moon is really important. The full moon just passed, but the energy is still there. This is your full moon, okay? So you should read that report and see how it resonates with you. There are there's a lot of information about Taurus in there that will be super beneficial for you, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you for your input there.
You're welcome.
And by the way, Aries are natural born business
Healers. Yeah.
Well, actually, Aries is not known for its healing ability. That's not like their primary thing. They're natural born business people though. And
yeah, that too.
I feel like if you feel like you're a natural healer, you would definitely do well to think through your business, make yourself a good plan. That Virgo rising and the Virgo moon are going to make you outline a terrific plan, right? So you're going to have that down. You know, that Aries fire with that Virgo planning is going to make you be able to pull this off. So, you know, whatever you do, you know, book yourself in for a consultation with me and let's talk about it. By the way, friends, I have developed a spiritual life coach certification program that will take you from point A to point Z in being a healer, being a life coach, and setting up your business. You will have your website done. You will have clients in your books. By the time we're done, you will have it all. So book yourself in for that discovery session, and I will happily walk you through this process of getting you set up, and you will enjoy it because it's fun. Angelia, if you ever want to talk about that or share your experience, I'm happy to open the floor for that.
Yeah, Crystal's amazing. She's helped me a lot with that.
Just showing off. That's a humble brag right there. That is such a humble brag right there. Totally. Thank you, Angelia.
You're welcome.
Valentina says that she healed her stuttering, but she felt her self-worth got damaged because of that. Yeah, of course. And yes, Valentina, that is a part of your soul's journey here on Earth. That's why you came to Earth. She says, I have this deep belief that I'm not smart enough. And also, she says that your mom was overprotective and codependent, so your confidence was very low. Yes, beloved girl, yes. This all adds up. Yes, yes, yes. Valentina, I would love to talk to you more about, you know, if you want to like really pursue your life as a, you know, as a healer or a coach, book yourself in. I'd love to do that. And Tasha says that Reiki is on her list. I would love to work with you, Tasha, if you want to join that. I'll be posting all the information about Reiki very soon. I had misscheduled it, so I need to like change the dates around, but we'll get that worked out. Solamia, let's see, Tasha, Solamia has posted for you the link to Badass Butterfly Training in the chat here. But Solamia, I want you to send her an email for that also. Just go and fire off an email so she can have that. I want her to get it right away. And then Valentina says that she's Sagittarius Sun. Oh, Scorpio. Oh, shit. Sagittarius Sun. That is so fiery. And Sagittarian is, you know, the centaur, right? Scorpio Moon. That is super intuitive, super strong, potentially a really good healer. And Virgo Rising. Yes, this is a very dynamite combination because you have a lot of grounding, you have emotion. That is a very rich life there, Valentina. Can't wait to talk to you. And very good. Very, very, very good. Excellent, you guys. So look, we've been going on for a long time. I hope this has been helpful to you all. I think it's time to sign off. I want to thank you all for joining me. I look forward to catching you next month when we run this series again. We'll do a different talk. It'll be a different subject. But I definitely wanted to bring up this Chiron story and talk to you about the wounded healer. All right. So if there no more questions, anything, I'll sign off and say goodbye to Angelia and Tasha. Thank you so much for joining. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye, loves. Bye.